no pressure down ball, just and of course that's also acquired the transfer season in the summer, just a couple of weeks before say league number started out. We just have to fuse it, the transfer updates, the analysis, why and how certain things are happening. Gap, I think say Barcelona have been faced by one of the biggest challenges that clubs face in the modern era when it comes to transfers. Because usually, say all the come about transfers, you need to take two key things in mind. First one, the conversation, the footballing reason, and also the business reason. And I've said it several times, say football and a business don't go one ahead of the other. They always go hand in hand. It's a similar story of the conversation around football tactics and also quality players. So all quality players are, one of the things that you want is that you also want to be able to have the best system to bring the best out of those players. And that's exactly what you're looking at. I think say Barcelona for now have faced a peculiar problem when it comes to Abrante Ferran Torres. And this morning, Barca for now are announcing the sale or the departure of Abrante Ferran Torres. But for a lot of Barcelona folk, given the fact that there hasn't been a proper replacement of Robert Lewandowski, the fact that as it stands now, Abrante Ferran Julian Alvarez also hasn't come through at the club, letting Ferran Torres lead the club is a big worry. And to be very honest, I think they are not far from wrong. Because if you look at the conversation around the possible durability of Abrante Ferran and Rafinha and same for Lamine Yamal, two players last season, now there were certain times that they were in the team, out of the team, all of those things. No, you want to make sure, this point in time, it was Ferran that stood up. Let's go. It was Ferran that stood up and then got a job done. So at this point in time, Lamine Yamal could plan next season. Rafinha could plan next season. How are you going to get somebody that comes in and gets in the goals for you? But in the tricky part, and that is where the business conversation of transfers come into play, in this case of Ferran Torres, because around the final year of the contract, he is also a squad player. Mind you, in the grand scheme of things at Football Club Barcelona, Ferran Torres was not the main guy who didn't come up the top players in the club. It was, especially in attack, it was Lewandowski, it was Ferran, it was Rafinha and Lamine Yamal. He was more or less like a squad player. Even at some point in time, Danny Olmo had risen up the pecking order above Abrante Ferran Torres. And that is why in the player's own admonition, he kept on saying, for him, he didn't feel as much the love that Lamine was getting, Danny Olmo was getting, Pedri was getting, and that he felt that as a player, Barca want to share the love. How do you do that? In showing a player love in the corporate society, you give them a contract extension, you up their wages, and then you give them that reassurance for on paper. And the idea about Barcelona were not entirely willing to do because Rich in the market of football, if you can get 50 million euros approximately from Abrante Ferran Torres on the transfer market, Abraham can less than a year in his contract. And that is a gold in business. A gold in business. So Barcelona knew that, okay, fine. Or you're a squad player. I can't 1 year on the contract. So yes, you're in fast striker, Lewandowski goals, no, or even his goals. Because in truth, again, when you talk of Karim Adeyemi, any Anthony Gordon, they may have the attribute of how Hansi Taflek wants to play his football, high pressing, you see pace, the directness, all of that, it can be there. But in all of that, they are not proven in the Spanish La Liga. But it's the question of money. And that's why the big question is that, Deco and the sporting director of Barcelona, you needed to choose one. And for Barca, I think that when they look at everything across border, Sikano 50 million in Hiomo because of two things. One, in terms of the reinforcement of Barcelona team, I can understand when people say Barcelona for no center backs, left-footed center back, omoto right-footed center back, omunya a lot of quality even at fullback, and it is true because who should be to say João Cancelo? He is one type of a fullback, high attacking, keeps the width, but defensively, when Barca have to shut up shop and defend a little bit low in Champions League away games, can Cancelo give you that? Can Abrante Ferran Alejandro Balde give you that? So those are questions, legitimate ones. But in reality, you can tell, say Abrante Ferran, Hansi Taflek, wants to play in a front-footed system. A system of making sure, say, every point in time, almost press high, almost counter press, they are winning the ball up, and then turning the possession over to turn it into chances.
Kofi, wadaro ma yentisa we no mfama sane be a matiefo no betimi enya we. So Gabi betimi akona yetimi aye adwuma kama pacho afi na ade wafide de ato aye hwea 1045 FM so ni say ni ye show every Saturday bia yetna se exactly 9 na 9:30 ya sase edi nkomo on the foreign front ya ba exactly 11 na fi ye the local stories no and so Eddie Abba Fernandez you are the tactical airboard yedi Barcelona enkomo one Ferran Torres ni move to PSG how ebeboa Barca and how it's effective one more financial muscles no so betimi page me hon komo na yedi Kofi
yeah so I mean essentially
Dabi so for my name say
so for football club
I saw there sir
understand
Dabi menche Asem Cranny. Kofi de corner me hade.
Is it so?
Fidea ye.
Fidea
ye. Fidea. How many de almost say Antino Kofi de ye ninkomo. Ye ninkomo. Nadia.
Gabi festival.
Asemo.
It's Gabi in Costa.
Na said the aye the emisa de ne fidi ha.
And poverty of watch on.
O say said omo ya we. Kaka omo fante enye sa de me de enye mame. But omo fante we nso sa home in just Kofi anko ye ni nkomo.
Any home in there let me sit down.
Sa
say near there if it's too.
Dabi ya ne bra because me de enye mfa mame. Emboa me listeners na mwampa nka mo so de mejimu di pa sister ade na entirely oya na akotu ba ko Kofi kasama me hese ya
let's say still home
Kofi Jaina bla Kofi Jaina bla how idiot asebo abusafo yasema mfidie ntina toda bia na mode ache saa na esitie mfidie ne edi adwuma ntia toda bia na amane ma ye kakra beta ye behe na ye adwuma na edi amamo kama ntia me se Jeff mo be Yusuf Fiifi yi ne we che wode amaye na yetimi alinki up na yetimi abo Kofi
I mean I'm not rich but I think it's one of the biggest issues at Football Club Barcelona. You can understand say Nkofu bisa questions of the squad depth and whether or not the team is ready to go and play in the Spanish La Liga next season. Because of course, if you lose the goals of Robert Lewandowski, huge. If you lose the goals of Ferran Torres, are huge. Mind you, in 2 seasons, Ferran Torres and Barcelona 40 plus goals and assists. That is not just mere numbers. That is top level quality. But again, in the grand scheme of things at Barcelona, this is a squad player. So now it comes down to whether whatever decision you want to make, is it a decision of finances and I said the decision of the sporting wise. And Barca decided to go more business in that direction, which for me is brilliant because now there is another one of the reinvestment of that amount of money at Barcelona. If you get approximately 50 million euros, that's how they come back onto the market. What can you get? Already, Barca have done two brilliant deals in Karim Adeyemi, Brent F and Anthony Gordon. Can Barca get Julian Alvarez? I don't think so. We are just 2 more weeks into the season. I personally do not think Football Club Barcelona beats Julian Alvarez. I think Atletico Madrid are not willing to sell. And that is why Barca are beginning to look at other options on the market in terms of attackers on beating Yomaba. Now, I don't want people to be too worried about Barcelona. Don't be too worried about the Barca team. Do you know why? Because in the modern game, Anna they be a catcher say football tactics near player quality near. And I've constantly said two school of thoughts of the game, they don't go one ahead of the other. It's constantly they're supposed to be in tandem. We call concurrent. And so omoba together. But say utiminya bako na say a supersede the other. It takes care of the frailties or the downsides of the other one.
Okay.
And that is what Hansi Flick has done at Football Club Barcelona the last 2 seasons that he has been there. Hansi Flick Babe for Barcelona Jumano. It was And even the Barcelona handed him dry bones. See, I can't see be dry bones. And now, do you remember the team that Xavi, Eja, Ronum, Edema Hansiri Taflik? Gab. It was a team of nobodies. Obi any team in him. Yes, Lamine Yamal was young, he had made his debut, but who was Lamine Yamal at the time?
That nipa no ho the personals no ho, but that aura na sisi omukra no na ni ho.
One man came from Germany and said that me person me embedded the two styles of play I'm him. The German high pressing football, heavy metal, no? And then I add it to the Spanish tiki-taka. So in his mind, let me find players that when they work hard and win the ball high up the pitch, they can play too. Jurgen Klopp has said it. Now it is good to get your DMs to win the ball, but when you get your attackers to win the ball, it's one pass and you have a goal. And that is what City Africa has built. And that is why for me, it's true they don't have a centre back that they have to buy, especially left-footed centre back. Look at the experience of Gerard Martin, it's not there. The issues of durability of Pedri, Gavi, Frankie de Jong, Marc Banal, Marc Casado, these are young pros. They are inexperienced in the grand scheme of things. But our City Africa has managed to get this team to the semi-final of the Champions League, one quarter-final of the Champions League, and won the Spanish La Liga when Madrid had bought Kylian Lutz and Mbappe. So it's all well and nice with Football Club Real Madrid. But for him, the tactical side of the game is just so strong that maybe they don't have the best in terms of player quality. But they have a stylistic fit. And again, it's one of the things that people overlook constantly in transfer conversations. Gab, player A can be good for you, but that player A cannot be good for the other coach. And then, who you Chelsea ni because be a to Karim Adeyemi, how because una Karim crash on yari. Because maybe because of how Xabi Alonso won a ball, Karim Adeyemi any stylistic fit. But because of how Hansi Dieter Flick won a ball, Adeyemi is a perfect fit for the style. He's a hard worker, he presses high, he wins the ball quicker, translates, and they are more direct. And that is the kind of system Hansi Dieter Flick episode building on the squad move. And that is exactly why they are bent on, or they are very keen on getting the job done. So we'll look at how the season is going to be like. Rich, I think Madrid have done a brilliant job. I just don't know how Barcelona will be able to finalize the deal of our brand friend Rodri Cascante. And Tijani Fernandez, City for Nukoko JSS Kano, they sorted it out. They have finalized the conversation. Barcelona for Jumano, with respect to player Omar turn in Ferran Torres. Now the focus is now on our brand friend Rodri Cascante. I think when Rodri comes to Football Club Barcelona, he had a lot of quality to the team. But can that be done? I think in the next few weeks now, we'll be able to find out in terms of the office or Mediaco to see if they can finalize Rodri Cascante. A wonderful player. And I think say Luis de la Fuente, X-Ray, Hansi Dieter Flick, Adeki Tuebi or World Cup him.
How big is players?
Yeah, and for all of us who are students of football tactics and systems, for me it was a learning curve. Because say high level ball retainer and ball recycler say Rodri, you don't particularly think of adding Obi to say Fabian Duri to the pack. But when you go into the World Cup and you're playing certain games, be to say against the Portuguese, against the Argentines, against teams they'll go quick into transitions. You want to retain the ball as much as possible.
Kofi Akai roughly be 10 minutes. Mr. And you bet me you see they say the BBI set to Adaroma. Send you bet me send me them come back on the kahwa and you be 20 send you be to me. This I am common because I know the board no so dey here. So Gabi aya adwuma kama. Gabi msema ye wo 2 and 2 be adwuma na o kan Gabi am so kan sports no. Akwa ba kun dey me head anyini ni. Or na oye technical person no. And technician why adwuma in fact why adwuma ni ye wo papa ntino. Ye come back to the tactical board na ye adwuma dey mama I sure 1045 FM your number 1 can radio station dey asanteme nyina age atumini ti de atia na mfidie de adwuma se to da bia na ye yintia na manso mo de atikofi.
So essentially Spanish La Liga is starting and I think that is where all of these conversations keep on coming from. For me,
I don't think say Madrid for one have done BBR exceptionally for them to believe that they'll be able to win the Spanish La Liga ahead of Barcelona. And like I've told you, for Barcelona, stylistically, they have the players that they need. And ABA, they will not be able to win the Champions League. But in Spain, they will be able to go to Anoeta and beat who they have to beat. They can go to Rayo and then exert dominance there. They can go back to Espanyol and beat Espanyol in all of those derbies. They'll go to Seville and do that job. The problem is how they will do that job in the Champions League, and that's why there's a big deal. Of course, Jose Mourinho, whether I like it or not, raises the system and the ceiling at Football Club Real Madrid. But it's still time enough for us to find out whether Jose Mourinho will be able to piece together Yan Diamonde, Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., Jude Bellingham, Federico Valverde, Tchouameni, Camavinga, without a noticeable DM. That is a tempo controller, which up to now only be. Almost can say clearly they don't want Enzo Fernandez. They've lost the battle to Rodri Cascante. They've brought in a much more tactical linchpin in Abrante friend Bernardo Silva, who can be box to box, can play anywhere. But in reality, since the Monaco days, even there was Timo Bakayoko and Nebo as a certain six to control the game and its tempo for Team and friend Monaco, and Bernardo Silva was doing box to box. Of course, now Brant's friend Fabinho was in that team. So we wait to see what Jose can do. For me, I don't want to pass too much judgment on Madrid until match of first 2-3 games in the season. Then I can see what Jose Mourinho is trying to do. We'll see about that. And the conversation around Enzo Fernandez, I have one good thing to say and one not too good thing to say. And I'll start with a good thing. And then I'm we at Chelsea, I think that you should be relaxed because there is clarity in the horizon. Clarity in the sense that Chelsea Fono are now looking to, you see, McCann several times, and I said it about 2 years ago, 1 year ago, say Chelsea's biggest problem was not about buying the biggest stars. 28 years, no. It's about setting the standards and the culture of the club. This is a club that has bad standards in the last years. If you want to understand why Mikel Arteta and Arsenal winning the Premier League after 22 seasons, it is changing the culture.
Even Barcelona did the same thing.
Yes.
Under Hansi Flick.
You change the culture. Because sometimes big clubs go through transitional stages where the culture stinks. Then you rebuild a different culture. And it's normal. It's this. If you ask yourself why Madrid in this market where they are better tactically suited managers in terms of how to play the modern game than Jose Mourinho, they will rather go for Jose. It's because of the culture. Just so Vini will not think that he is bigger than Football Club Real Madrid because Onoa come Ballon d'Or podium so that. Just so Mbappe will not think that he won the World Cup at age 18, 19, so he's a better player than anybody in the team. Just so for them, they will look in the dugout and see a bigger man than them who represent Football Club Real Madrid. So yesterday, it was Chelsea's clear plan to establish a new order of culture and then let every player know that you are Chelsea to Enzo and can you problem. What it would have meant was that Chelsea have said that everybody in the club is disposable. So you can be Enzo, you can be whoever. But if you keep on saying together with your agent, and Obika say, oh, Enzo and Kasan can sell on the of your club. Enzo's agent is an appendix of Ono, or it is an extension.
Yeah.
When you have a pastorica, Enzo Fernandez Nhyira. Enzo Fernandez do have a pastoral near Juma.
And even on no deals, the man.
Enzo Fernandez chance a jack now can jai, obey jai. So you cannot say that any Enzo it is Enzo. By extension is agent. So Chelsea really wanted to get that job done. And me can say Xabi Alonso Aba. Before Bebano, Chelsea say okay. You're one of the best young coaches on the market. If not for nothing, the resume from Bayern for Leverkusen and his youthful days, also said that is enough. She said, okay, fine. We want to at least give him a try. Now, Obayano, what a British world record fee for a British player in Morgan Rogers, 117 million. I wonder why this are 1 million, no two actually, but 117 million. Alonso say in his team, he needs an extension of the coaching on the field of play, even amongst the players. So you brought in two experienced players, Danny Welbeck and Jordan Henderson. Henderson has won the Premier League under Jurgen Klopp.
He has won the Champions League and a Jurgen Klopp. He is a Liverpoolian, played there. He was, both of them were in Sunderland, grown through the ranks. They understand the English football terrain. Discipline, culture, certain standards, all the number. They are doing that job. Would you want to destabilize it by going into your first game against Fulham? Enzo Beko, Enzo Nko, Enzo Beko, Enzo Nko, Enzo Beko, Enzo Nko, Enzo Beko, Enzo Nko. The game is on Monday every week. Now for the acquire Thursday. Yes, you will sit in the 150 aba or the 80 aba. Enzo Fernandez.
What planning with him now?
When the coach has worked with him on the training field, you do not want that. So now, Man City can open. Fine, Brabetono. One man metonic there. Then once the deadline elapses, you are not going to buy Enzo for 120 million. Now you see, this is where me too happy as an analyst. And now, almost all the briefs that were coming out of Chelsea were beginning to shift goalposts. Initially, the brief was that say 5 p.m. bar, you told Enzo this summer.
Yes.
Now the brief began to read, and I keep on saying that if you want to analyze transfer stories well, you need to look at diction, the choice of words of the writers. Obia say, oh, Chelsea for will now think if so you have more than 120 million now.
Somewhere, something around 140.
So it means that Chelsea are still likely to sell, but at a higher fee. Now that is questionable. It will go against the very things that I think Chelsea wanted to do in terms of standards.
Okay.
It is own turn now. You don't sell him this summer. Next summer, say still up a so then you put him on the market. Then he decides to go. Because, God, whether you like it or not, Enzo is an important player for the Chelsea team. And he has said it. Maresca Penny, because tactically on the field of play, he gives him a lot. He gives him dynamism. He can play on the left, can play on the right, can play deep, can play up. This is a player that last season, in terms of goals contribution, he was higher than a lot of the Chelsea attackers.
Do you know one thing? Adia me pe Enzo who you say. So obo game the ama Chelsea a untimi question say I say oni ahofama at the team no obo with ne whole heart. Obo utimi say akwa na ebo Chelsea lose a utimi say eha ne yie pa into oye player at the face of it utimi say op Chelsea. But I said the other side, you know. Uncle V, we know.
You see, I know see one side. I said Chelsea for should show commitment, because, like I said in the Ferran Torres case, in any corporate entity, you don't tell somebody you value them by word of mouth.
See Liverpool need Luis Diaz there. No?
Exactly, you show them by increasing their wage. And another yes, example way to reach. Enzo Fernandez, you call Benfica, not just 24,000 euros a week. That is chicken change in European conversation of football salaries. From maybe out the Premier anyway. But at that level, it's no money. And at the neighbor church now, man, 180,000 pounds. Mind you, the first thing that changes the sign of the currency, euros to pounds, a kosoro.
Yeah.
Plus, you can cry jumping almost 200 to 300% more. And I buy Enzo. But Enzo's level has gone up.
Standards.
Now look at this. Enzo Fernandez versus Man City's midfielders today. Man City is look at the numbers that he trained out to them. Enzo, Rodri, Tijani Reinders, and Elliot Anderson. Now for Rodri, I won't be too critical of him because after the Ballon d'Or, he went off injured. Now Enzo bought 36 games. Rodri bought just 21. Anderson bought 38. Tijani Reinders about 28. Goals, Enzo said 10. Rodri share 1, Elliot Anderson share 4, Tijani Reinders share 5. Now let me add this caveat. These are different player profiles, some of them in different positions. Yeah. So you can understand that Elliot Anderson will not get as much goals, but these are raw numbers. So whilst we bring out the numbers, I'll analyze the numbers for you. Assist, Enzo 4 assists, Rodri no assist, Anderson 4 assists, Tijani Reinders 2 assists. Tackles, Enzo, Enya 53 tackles. Rodri 41, Elliot Anderson, who is a DM, so this is his fourth. On only Bain the stock in trade 104, then Tijani Reinders 10. Then interceptions, Enzo 21, Rodri 14, Elliot Anderson again his Bain 41, Reinders 10. Then passing, Enzo 86, Rodri 90, Elliot Anderson 85, Tijani Reinders 89. So when you compare him to even Man City midfielders, he is there. And go and take Declan Rice. Go and take Bruno G that has been bought for almost 70 million. Kokofat, Martin Ibanez will be Mendy. Who else is at Arsenal? Midfield, you know. Go to Tottenham and offer Sandro Tonali, offer Matheus Fernandez. These are players that Enzo will rock shoulder up with them or even be better than most of them. So if Sandro Tonali a free Newcastle, no Kotoria Mospe, no almost £400,000 a week. Why is Enzo still on 180,000? It's the reason why Chelsea should listen to Javier Pastore, sit on the table, and then agree another contract and increase the salary. 250 at the very least. Enzo Fernandez deserves that amount of money.
So G2 say player and a very good idea. And then who advancing?
Money sikaro no mo boni ma. And yes metete options be. Adam Wharton can be a good DM on his own as a 6, but he doesn't give you that pass volume of as Enzo Fernandez. Adam Wharton can give you that ability to pass the ball, but he doesn't have the ability, the passing range as Enzo Fernandez. Adam Wharton can give you the short passing to the sideways and try to control the tempo of games. But Onisa box to box and box crashing ability of Enzo Fernandez and managed 10 goals. About 9 more than almost everybody he's being compared to. You can go back and talk about Alex Scott. Alex Scott any stylistic fit for Xabi Alonso. Because Alex is more box to box, want to carry and drive forward. Enzo is a passer. And that is what Xabi Alonso wants in his team. Obi Obetenase, no one to passes, there be a team, no man. So Enzo is very important today and in the future. And that is why I think that Chelsea fans should look at it. And I think that very soon also, Ono Enzo, so on any agents, Negasa.
Okay.
He has to speak to Javier Pastore. Now, sleeping dogs should lie. They should finalize all of that conversation around contract extension, Nene, Sanya, Mane, Koso, because Enzo, a top player, he needs to be able to sort things out in that regard. And I think, any games that Koso, 2 matches of Spanish La Liga.
Yeah, Spanish La Liga.
Sevilla, and I think Rayo Vallecano is also playing our match. And Banyami Admochina is the Community Shield. Maresca and Mikel Arteta. Or try or Chelsea. And I think that managers like Mikel Arteta are what managers like Maresca don't like. Maresca is 3-4-3 in terms of when you have the ball. So they have a box midfield, almost 3 center backs that progress the ball. Then they have 3 attackers, 1 keep the weight, 1 on the other side, and then 1 center forward. Now, Mikel Arteta teams here more brute, more physical, more dominant. They want to win duels. And that is what, for me, makes them the favorites in this one. Again, people are not looking at this. Most of the players that was the team, now the team used to evolve around them every team. So you look at the likes of Bernardo Silva, he's out to the team at the moment.
The ball
carrier. Which will be to say, exactly, Rodri, or Chinamach, Omobi, Mateo Kovacic, he's not fit. Tijani Reinders is out. Matias Nunes, for large part, was used as a fullback. So it's a big deal. And now, Mikel Arteta said, whenever we have the possibility, we will resolve that, talking about his future. And I say he wants to be there. For Maresca, I say the Community Shield is not a friendly at all. It's a trophy. And when there's a trophy, he wants to win. And Maresca in finals also, or impeccable records. So in the Club World Cup final, in the Conference League final, he was in those finals and he managed to win those finals. Or what finals, and he's very good at it. I say, no, I don't have to worry about any of that because I want to be here. Of course, he's talking about Arsenal fans. Oh, Arsenal, yeah, don't worry. In 3 times, Arsenal played in the Community Shield and they've had success against Manchester City. In 1934, almost a 4-0 against City. 2014, Olivier Giroud led them almost a 3-0 against City. 2023, Community Shield, only need 4-1 on penalties after 1-1 in extra time. We're expecting, this is going to be the possible lineup of Arsenal. David Raya imposed Mosquera, Gabriel, White, Calafiori, Miles Lewis Kelly, Bruno G, Martin Odegaard, Christos Zolis, Kai Havertz, and Abenti Freno, Matt Dauman.
Wait there. Those say Christos Zolis and Akula Nimbo Papa.
Last season, Dauman also lit up the Premier League at the tail end of the season.
But say where the say Enyasna main squad in you.
Oh no, so Obi Anshen Enyani main squad.
Okay, well, City the anybody
because even for City, Nico Gonzalez on Fiifi, Mateo Kovacic, and Phil Foden, Omar Mamouche, who wasn't too clear about his future, will start. Antoine Semenyo on the right, Jeremy Doku on the left, Ryan Elnori,
Ruben Diaz, Josko Guardiola, and Matthias Nunes, and of course Gianluigi Donnarumma.
As a City there, no consistency kakra wum chain. Arsenal there in terms of the previous matches.
Like the kind of players that are there. For me, it's all Enzo Maresca matches are. You should expect that this becomes a back three, and I'm thinking say it will shift towards the right hand side. So the back three will become Diaz, Guardiola, and Nunez. Then we expect that the two sitting midfielders, you come and have Nico Gonzalez and Abrantia, your friend right and Nori who come inside. Then Matthew Kovacic will become the box to box. Then Phil Foden becomes the creator in chief. On the way, Antoine Semenyo, Jeremy Doku, and Abrantia friend Omar Mamouche. Of course, there's quality on the bench.
Okay.
In Abrantia friend Erling Haaland more who can come in. I think they can add much now. It's a game that Arsenal for are likely to win. For me, my money is on team friend Arsenal. Now, best way for say season I started.
And would you call the neighbor and himself what traded that now? Few Foden and Enzo Maresca. You be winning rise be man.
Oh, I think he'll be good.
Sir,
I think Maresca is a very good coach.
Okay.
Until we wait to make coaching back into how he wants to play. Maresca doesn't plan to change too much at City.
Okay.
Pep there but just a few tweaks to make it work.
We prequel.
And
it was also green.
Guys, Nefresca. Nah. This season there is a calculator to it constantly. Okay. Every day we expect at least one code every ball.
Okay.
We mean sometimes it can be 4, can be 5, can be 16 but we know that at least one code every ball. And then starts and run officially leagues and starts here. Portugal, Turkey and the likes. I think and then most of the times Belgium, Spain leagues. We see a league matches in
okay.
Mr. Utia no for pen or paper. First one BW68 FB30BA. That is the first code. Second one, BW68FAEC31. Third one, BW68FA8A19. Fourth one, BW68FA57E2. Fifth one, BW68F9C59E. And the last one here, BW68F9B3F9. God, Nina a better code.
Okay. Kofi, yada say, I know you're foreign front na ahani this now. Yaba fied na yaba be di efie kobo.
Me feel as him.
Me no na me ba beti win no me jade